Hello, welcome to this introduction to functional programming. We'll start off by looking at what higher functions or higher order functions are all about. But firstly, why functional programming? Functional programming is a way to use functions all over the place in your coding. Firstly, it will make you a much better programmer, and it will help you use skills that are highly sought after, right? Highly sought after. Yeah. Also, there's some good things about functional programming. You'll write less code, and you'll be able to compose smaller pieces of code, and this makes code management a lot easier. But the first thing you have to, let's actually have a quick primer to our functions. Functions, like we saw some time back, can be defined in several ways. We could provide, some kind of function. This is a named function, and in our case, it has one variable or argument, and we'll just log in here like that. Right now, let's just make it return the name, and it could return something like this: hello. Some bit of concatenation. Okay. Functions can also be assigned to a value, to a variable. In other words, a function, in this case anonymous, can be assigned to a variable. We'll also do the same thing. We'll have hello space plus the name. Okay, now let's try to use them. We'll try to use it by typing console log create person, and I'll try that. I'll also try out our second version, create person 2. Okay, this time I'll be using a node, but you can load this to some HTML and run it through your console on the developer tools on a browser like Chrome or Firefox. So my file is called example.js, so I'll type that, and you'll see that our result is hello Emily, hello Tony. In other words, our functions worked the way we defined them. The first way is providing a named function, and the other naming a function that is anonymous. Now, higher order functions are typically functions that are passed on. So in this case here, we could suppose we have a list of names. Random names. And we could define a function that will look through these names and call that very. So we can have So we could write our function or our loop ordinarily, and when we run it, we see that it ran through a list of names. Now let's explore one higher order function called filter. And in this filter, the goal behind using filter is we are looking for something. Now let's, I suppose we could do something like testing to see if the name is someone's name. For example, I suppose we could just print out Rachel. So every time Rachel is encountered, we actually log Rachel and we do not log anything else. So let's save that. Let's run our code, and that's it. It greets Rachel. And this function filter can be used. So I'll comment this out to get us that name. And the way it works is we'll we'll start with the name of the array, which is names. Then we'll filter and we'll pass in a callback function. A callback function is a function that returns something when called. And filter, you see, is a function that takes another function. Here we're passing a function. And we'll pass it a variable, an argument, let's say name for the purposes of this. And that's it. Well, we are almost done, right? So this function here has to have a kind of Boolean situation. So it should return something like that's true or false. And what we'll do is we'll compare it with Rachel. And that's it. And let's call this filtered equals, and then we'll try to run a log of this. This is a transformational type of function, and that's it. So it returns to us Rachel, and what we can do is what we can do with the filtered variable is we could also loop through it and let's say filtered grid person and say filtered val. This is another style of looping, so we'll run that. Right now it returns something, so we have to transform this into a log. Okay, hello Rachel. That's it. Let's take a look at another example. This example has students, and this list of students has, or this array of students has objects in it. And suppose we wanted to maybe get a list of students that are, say, less than 30 years old. The usual route is create a variable, then loop through the students. So our loop might look something like this for var I, and then if the student's age is less than 30, we push that into a students less 30 list. And let's comment out a few things here, like this log, and let's save that, and let's log student less 30. Let's see what that looks like. And that's it. You can see that Rachel, Tom were returned. However, there is that way we could do with just the filter command. So let's try that. Let's comment this out. And let's create a variable called students less 30, and then we'll pass it the list of the array of students, and we'll filter. And in this filter function, we'll put in an argument. And what this thing looks for is students with an age less than 30. And take note of this. That was the previous result with an ordinary for loop. And right now, same thing happens. And this is written with much less code. And we could put this all in one line. Okay. And you see that's way less code. Now let's talk about a variant of JavaScript that's being designed. It's called ECMAScript 6. There is a way we could do this very same thing, student less 30, let's say version 2 equals that, and we could do it like this. The ECMAScript way uses arrow functions, and here we can pass in student, then the arrow, and just student age less 30, that's it. When we try to run it, we get a weird error. So we will use another version, another variant to run this. If you're Node or if you have a browser that's a little bit more up to date, you should be able to run this ordinarily. And there's a tiny error that we're going to fix shortly. Let's get rid of that extra parentheses and let's run it afresh. There you are. So it's even shorter with ECMAScript 6. Well, that's how filter right now works. Now let's see, are there any other examples that we could walk through? In the next section, you'll have a challenge where you walk through an array of musicians and then you'd get some genres. Thank you.